Welcome back to the Quiet On Set podcast. I'm Young Gruff, and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan Healy.
On episode 181, as we etch closer to the episode 200, we're not taking a break, even though I'm on holidays. That's right, I'm on holidays. So it's time for me to relax, but the show must go on. There's no stopping the podcast. I think we should just keep going, no matter whether I'm dying, you're dying, I'm on holiday, you're on. Doesn't matter. The episode goes
real
on.
Quick. Yeah.
I'm in hospital on my deathbed, and I want you there with your microphone recording with me.
We are dedicated to keep the streak alive. Because early on in the show, I think we had a bunch of stops in between, and we haven't had that for a long time. And yeah, we're gonna keep at it. You actually got to see a film that you wanted to see for a long time with La Chimera. You rewatched The Green Knight and Place Beyond the Pines. As you are getting ready for holiday, I feel like you're treating yourself with a couple of films that you're bound to enjoy. And I watched back to back Musica and finished the new AppleTV Plus show Sugar with Colin Farrell.
This week's main topic is going to be Love Lies Bleeding. Super exciting, but I have nothing to segue with because I'm on holiday.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He's all loose. But let's keep up that intro and get into the show.
We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes. Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. Hello there.
Which actually,
did you
this
get
is gonna
me a hat as well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
All right, Lachlan, welcome back.
Hello.
We are recording this earlier in the week because you are leaving for holiday on the actual day that we usually record. And it shifts our recording dates around a bit. But we were lucky enough that the trailer for Joker Folie à Deux already dropped. And
so
that's what we're going to be discussing. First, I wanted to watch this together on the podcast, but apparently this was really, really hot stuff that people wanted you to watch.
I had like everyone send this to me. Like everyone.
Understandably, Joker was huge. It made over $1 billion. And with this one being a musical, a lot of people are doubtful that will it hit the same. It was kind of lightning in a bottle for this type of darker movie, but we've seen it with Oppenheimer that also made a lot of money. Not that these movies are in any sort of way comparable, but they also are like an R-rated film. I think Oppenheimer was also R-rated, wasn't it? Right? Or am I just making that up?
Me it was MA.
There's
in
nudity.
Australia. In Australia, if it's R in America, it's MA 15 plus in Australia.
Well, if they had shown the bomb going off, it would have been like for teens. But because there's breasts in it, it has to be for mature audience.
Of course, yeah. Well, mine's still you only have to be 15 to see it, so...
Right, yeah.
15-year-olds in Australia are loving Oppenheimer.
You fuck around and find out if you're Aussie. But yeah, I haven't watched the trailer yet. So we're going to do like what we actually kind of never do on the show. We're going to watch it and some clips of us watching it we'll make in. We'll have it like a separate video for like a full reaction if you're into that sort of thing. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet. So you're going to get my live reaction for the trailer Folie à Deux, which I love to say because I speak a bit of French. Anyone who actually speaks French will make fun of me, but it sounds good next to Lachlan, so I'll keep doing it.
Yep. Joker, Folie à Deux.
Folie Deluxe. Actually, when I click on this trailer, it says following content may contain suicide and self-harm topics in the trailer already. So let's have a look at the trailer. Oh, he's slim.
When did he shoot this? Did he shoot this before or after Napoleon?
Good question. I don't know. I think it was
she
after.
is.
We use music
Lady G.
to make us whole.
Lady G.
I'm nobody.
In a world of full imagination. Is that the theme?
Here we go. Give me a song.
Looks really dark. Like, not the subject matter, but the way that they filmed it. So,
You say that
probably
as soon as like
look
it turns
stunning.
all colourful with lights and stuff.
Good trailer so far.
Tell us.
It gives the mood quite a good mood. Oh, wow.
I'll tell you what's changed.
They go back to the stairs. Of course.
Jesus. Goes from 0 to 100 real quick.
Yeah. Want to know how I got these scars? Okay. So the trailer makes it seem like it is like truly a love story that we are seeing unfold, and I don't know how much they'll play with like what is actually going on versus what is in his mind. But I feel like with a musical, it has to be some sense, a sort of heightened reality that he's constructed, and maybe it's a shared illusion that they have there. But yeah, Lachlan, what did you make of the trailer?
So I think it's a really good. It gives you a premise of the story, but doesn't give you too much. Doesn't spoon feed it to you, which is one of the first things you got to worry about with trailers these days. Is how much they're going to tell you. It does give you a good vibe to the film, and it does kind of show you the high points, the low points, and it does flow quite well. And I think that there's a really good middle part of this trailer that really nails it. Yeah, no, I think people will see this trailer and they'll go into it knowing that it is a musical. They won't be kind of thrown off by it, but yeah, I think it's given enough. It's a good trailer. It's actually a pretty good trailer.
It's a really good trailer. I don't know if I'd go into this because we both already knew that it was a musical. So I don't know, it like that first half of it, or like the first like 30 seconds maybe, gives you a vibe for a musical, but it doesn't explicitly show it because you can't really do a number in it and then not just do the one number. And for a first trailer, you want to show a bit more than just like one musical number that runs through the whole, like, because that's one theme, then all the stuff you want to show in this trailer. So it's hard to like advertise for musicals in a way that isn't just straight up one of the songs.
I also believe from this trailer, I think that Harley Quinn is the villain.
Right. In what way?
In the sense that I think they're going to portray her as this love interest, but I feel like she's also going to be the character that pushes him over the edge to do more. And
yeah,
I think that he wants to play this part that he's still a good person. He's not this Joker figure, because there is that sequence where he's running from other Jokers. So I think that she's going to be pushing for him to be the Joker while he still wants to be himself. There could be something interesting here to play with their dynamic, because they don't have the best relationship, Harley and the Joker, in Batman lore. They have a relationship, but it's not the greatest and most conventional love story in the world. But for me, the trailer made me feel like she's set up as this character that follows his madness, but also causes him more chaos and pushes him over the edge to become this figure. So again, I think that the best part of Joker 1 was Joaquin Phoenix, and I'm happy to see him come back into this role. And I know Gaga can do a fantastic job acting, so it'll be really fun to see her do something that's not as serious as her other roles, and give her something a little bit of, like, give an actor a bit of fun to have on set. The only thing, the only thing I could probably be worried about is probably a shit dialogue, like screenplay, but I mean, who's writing?
I don't know, actually. I assume it is just Todd Phillips, who's also writing.
Scott Silver, Todd Phillips, Bob Kane. So
yeah, I feel like we both weren't in love with the first Joker and kind of saw its shortcomings, but I feel like it also has a lot of like bright spots with Phoenix in the lead role. The score is incredible. I think the cinematography was also something that was notable about that first Joker movie. And here they seem to be leaning more into the music. I don't know, it doesn't, more into the performances. If you just like see the moments that he's given, he gets to do a lot of like big acting stuff. And the cinematography and like production design is probably like on another level, because it is a musical. So I'm keen, I'm interested. I feel like Joker was definitely like over hyped in a way that it got a lot of money, but it was also then in response overhated by I'm including myself into this, just because I felt like it was so overpraised for what it actually is in the larger cinematic like landscape. But doesn't look too bad, actually. Pretty interested in this. And with that October release date, I'm sure that it will premiere just like the last one at the Venice Film Festival, And yeah, Lachlan, maybe we'll even reunite at that fest and catch this one early. Speaking of films that premiere at Venice, Pearl last year, 2 years ago, played at the Venice Film Festival, and now MaXXXine is closing the now triple X trilogy with MaXXXine. Comes out July. Did I say Joker Folie comes out October 4th, and MaXXXine is out on July 5th. Lachlan, you haven't seen the trailer for this one yet, right? And you were...
I have.
You've also seen it. Okay, never mind. Well, we just gotta rewatch it here. But yeah, you were a big fan. I've seen a bit of it. I've seen it on my phone. I haven't seen it.
So you have seen it.
Okay,
Liar.
yeah, this one I've seen. I wasn't planning on watching this on the podcast, but because we are short on content this week, we're gonna watch it here.
I'm not working after this recording, so I'm not watching anything. So I did it all while I was on the clock still, you know?
Fair, yeah. Like, whenever I message him on Discord now, it bounces back. Sorry, I'm not in office right now.
Yeah, I haven't clocked in
like
yet.
2 weeks' time. That auto response message that we're getting. But no, you were a big fan of that first X film.
Yes.
And
yes.
were a bit more lukewarm on Pearl, right? Compared to, I guess, at first.
Yeah.
And yeah,
but I'm ready to come back
80s.
because this movie looks sick.
Right.
So keen. I'm so keen for this one.
Yeah, let's give the trailer a refresher, and we're gonna watch it right now.
So,
A24 on the Hollywood Hills.
Your
Let's
agent
go.
tells us you're quite a popular name in adult film and entertainment. Is that correct?
Do you know about like the timeline? Is it all?
Always want to be in that line of.
It's not all
This
connected.
one's set
it
in the
can't be.
80s.
Famous.
But the first one
pretty
was
sure
set in
they're
the
all connected.
60s.
If you need to read off the sides, we can
But, like-
just go ahead, all right? I know the lines.
And Pearl
X
was
wasn't-
earlier than
She
that.
turns to the camera. and
Wasn't X in the 60s
trauma
though?
Addresses the
Yes,
lens
and Pearl
directly.
was earlier.
Yeah, but this is the 80s, and she was an old woman in.
Name 5 celebrities who
in
got
X.
their start
It's
in
not
horror
the
movies.
same person. So the other two, Pearl and in X, she plays older Pearl. Anyway, sorry. Trailer.
Blood.
It's a slasher movie. It's a 80s slasher movie.
I mean, I'd love. Yeah. Nothing more
And
than
Kevin
that. We do want more
Bacon's in it?
slasher.
Kevin
Yes.
Bacon.
Lawyer is a very powerful man.
It's gonna go footloose.
Oh man.
Ain't finished with you. It's gonna keep knocking at your door.
Tragically, another victim of the Night Stalker.
Oh man.
All right, Ray
The
Romero.
cast.
I'd be pretty scared. What are you hiding, Maxine?
This looks great. It's like
Something we've got
so much style, you know, the VHS type of look as well.
Yeah.
This is the defining
Film
moment of your
sets.
career.
Lily Collins.
That's interfering with this picture.
Yeah, Debicki.
Elizabeth Debicki.
And I mean, Mia Goth, I think, is
Fantastic.
is great.
She's done an incredible job with these past two ones.
Giancarlo Esposito as well. That's a big cast, like comparatively to the first two.
Yeah.
And yeah, all of the fucking neon sign. Yeah, this is hype. This is hype.
I love that aesthetic.
Yeah, and this one is out like sooner than later. I would actually like fingers crossed. It's probably not gonna happen because Gunn doesn't really have like. It does have midnight screenings, which is funny because the opening film is like one that from a director who usually has his films in the midnight screenings. So maybe there's a slot this one like gets in there and I get to see this one early, but it has me really intrigued. Although the last one, I think the way that it was released, it took a bit and it didn't take. I think film Twitter and like those online discourses ended up really resonating with Mia Goth's performance in Pearl, but I didn't really see it cross over into maybe a mainstream attention. This one feels like it has more of a mainstream appeal with like the 80s look, they're starting to, I guess, be nostalgic about like our time now. Like I've seen a couple films this year already that are doing like the 2000s era nostalgia, and yeah, that's coming sooner than later. But back in the 80s, slasher, Lachlan, we can get behind that, right?
Oh, bro, I'm so keen for this. As I said, I'm not excited for like horror movies. Like I'm not used to, but all of a sudden I am. Like I'm very
Long
keen for
legs.
this. Just because it was like very, very this is great. I'm super keen for this. The aesthetic's great. I love that soundtrack. I love the like Miami Vice style like
neon shit.
I just love all that. It's just I just eat it up. So I'm super keen.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to this as well. And again, we don't have to wait for it too long, at least in the States. I don't know about international distribution, but in the States, it's out July 5th. But yeah, that's it for the trailers that we watched. And then the only other news item, that's probably going to be more by the time this episode comes out. But right now, also by the time this comes out, I'll like add something in a bit. You'll see it. You see it then. But a couple of things were already announced about Gun 2024. Now I do have my everything booked, and I'm ready to head to the fest in about a month's time. And we got a couple of things that are already announced from the fest, like the honorary Palme d'Or that goes to George Lucas and Megalopolis, that's gonna premiere on May 17th in the Cannes competition. We got the opening film, which is going to be from Quentin Depardieu, who is known for a couple of films. Actually, he's done a lot of stuff recently. I watched his other film that played in Venice last year with Kevin called Dali. It's actually called Dali. It's long A's. It's like actually 6 A's in there. That was pretty funny. It was my first film that I've seen of his. So a couple of years ago, Smoking Causes Coughing was also playing in Cannes. And then Yannick was another film that I think never got a proper release here, and internationally, I assume probably also not for you, but I saw it just a special screening was hosted in a cinema in Zurich like last month, but I didn't get around to seeing that. But he's also responsible for the movie Rubber, where there's a killer wheel around killing people, and I've yet to see this one like fully. I've only seen clips of it, so I'm gonna get ready to watch a whole bunch of that. And then Furiosa was announced a while back, playing out of competition. The latest from George Miller, who's a darling with the fest. 2 years ago, he had 3,000 Years of Longing playing there. And then Kevin Costner's Horizon, an American Saga Chapter 1 has already been announced as well to play out of competition. And yeah, Kevin is really excited about that. He's also kind of mad that he's not joining me this time. We got 4 things announced so far. I guess I didn't say what Quentin Depardieu's film is. It's called the Le Deuxième Acte, which is the second act. And yeah, I'm sorry. He's repulsed whenever I say like he's taken it back.
Don't
like,
ask me to pronounce that one, eh?
But yeah, the whole program comes out a day from when we are recording this. So after our discussion here, I'll like add something in where I can give a bit of an overview of what else has been announced. But from the couple of things we've seen here, yeah, Lachlan, anything that stands out to you that's exciting?
Megalopolis is super exciting, first and foremost. That movie is completely self-funded by
Crazy.
Coppola himself, I'm pretty sure. And I think it's got like $100+ million. So this is clearly a passion project. And I can't remember the last time that man pumped a movie out. Like, was it over 6, 7, 8, not 10 years ago? Like, when was the last time?
It's just nothing that resonated with people as much. Like I see he had Twix. Yeah, it was over 10 years ago. I haven't seen that one. Pretty badly received, probably. Yeah, no. Then he made a documentary in 2014, but it's been 10 years, yeah, since he released like anything.
So I wonder how this will go. Because he is obviously quite a competent filmmaker. We can say that. Every filmmaker has their lower side, and sometimes it can just be a mixture of, you know, losing it and heart's not in it, or it could be just,
peaking,
complications
at a
on
certain
set.
time.
Peaking, yeah. I mean, when
Like
did he peak?
50 years ago. He had a run from 72 to... It feels like rude to say, I guess.
Did not.
79.
You were so ready for that. When did you pick 50 years ago? Like, you were just on that one.
Not that it's I mean, it's not a bad thing, but it's just like he went from Godfather to The Conversation to Godfather Part 2 to Apocalypse Now, all in a span of 7 years. And then after that, nothing has really hit that much, as much that is like culturally as relevant. anymore. And he's made a like couple of films that I've actually never heard of, and I'm just looking at his page right now. So I feel like I'm also gonna like watch a bunch of his stuff if I can make the time, because I'm more interested in his recent filmography to maybe give me a glimpse into what this one could be. But it's self-funded, like you said. There's over $100 million in it. Apparently it's only 133 minutes. I saw this announced and was like, oh, here we go, we're going back to Gun being like 4 hours long, because it's a director who self-funded this movie. This can't be under 3 hours, of course. Like, how can it be? And apparently it is. It's just like a bit over 2 hours. I don't know if that's accurate, but I am just rooting for this film because he self-funded it. There's a lot of passion behind it. Even if it doesn't do, or even if it's not the greatest thing, it would be a shame if it doesn't get a proper rollout, because I think it's still looking for distribution. I assume like getting to distribute it is gonna cost them quite a bit, because it costs a lot of money to make, and it's not like he wants to lose money on it.
I think could be trying to sell it at Cannes. I
think that's the I brought this up to Kevin, and I think he said that like it makes sense that it was shopped around for Gun, for Venice, and for TIFF, and they went with Gun because it's the one that's the earliest. And there is a film market around. It obviously makes sense. That usually happens as well, that like even Swiss distributors go in and then they can announce what they picked up afterwards.
Okay.
Sometimes they go in already having deals done, though.
Here's a question.
Yes.
So take this with a grain of salt, but I just quickly went to trivia on Megalopolis on IMDb, right? And the first couple things on here, it talks about how he self-funded this film, which they say 120 million for this film out of his own pocket. He's also done that with Apocalypse Now on One from the Heart, and the failure of One from the Heart made him have to declare bankruptcy, and all of his subsequent films up to The Rainmaker were to pay off his debts. So I was wondering, did he try to do like a one for you, one for me mentality, but he tried to do a one for me, one for me, one for me, one for me, and then fucked it, and then went, okay, one for you, 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 and made all these movies that he had no heart in, but he had to before for money? Because then the second one is, he wrote the script in the early 80s, but the film was kept on the back burner partially due to his financial debts. Pre-production finally began in 2001 after filming 30 hours of second unit footage and holding a table read with a bunch of people who are listed there. The project was then scrapped after the 9/11 attacks, since a scene from the attacks, I guess, kind of look very similar to what happened at 9/11. So he abandoned the project and didn't start back up on 2019. So this guy's had this idea for this movie for what?
For a long time.
40 years?
Yeah.
Probably even longer, right? He thought about it, like wrote it in the 80s, probably thinking about it. So this guy's had this idea for years, right? He's had issues with funding it. He's had issues with getting this made because of things that are out of his control, in his control, etc., etc., etc. And now he's finally made it. So is this going to be his magnum opus? Is this it?
So it's hard to say, man, because
this is going to be the greatest movie of all time.
Probably not.
Mark
Very
my
likely
words.
Not. He's already has like 3 of them at least up there. I feel like it's gonna be like inaccessible to some, because it's gonna like aim for something that maybe not everyone is ready for. Like a science fiction drama is usually not something that does super well unless it's like a Martian, like a poop farmer with potatoes, and it's Matt Damon. It's got like a huge cast, and I'm just wondering how he's gonna fit in all of that in 2 hours. Maybe this is a project that gets like a huge, like you said, there's just second unit stuff. They have like 30 hours, or what did you say, of footage?
Yeah, 30 hours of footage from the second unit.
That's crazy. Yeah, and it might just be one of those movies where like you point at the screen every 5 seconds for the people that are in it, and you know them. It's gonna be like, it's such a coin toss, if this one is gonna land or not. I'm super, like, we are both super excited for it, because he's a guy with a vision, and seems to be like back on getting something done that he's actually like really passionate about. And it's a bit of a pity that after throwing it all on a project that it didn't make the financial return, you basically cut short as a creative. You can't really get anything done because people ultimately, not gonna give you these blank checks. And
He wants to be Christopher Nolan so bad that he could just get a check from Warner Brothers, but unfortunately he didn't go the same route.
But Nolan, I guess, has had a pretty like steady growth for his films, that like even the ones that are one for me did still make like enough money to make sense for a studio, that they made the return, they're profitable. So he's like a really bankable director. And I don't know how much Coppola is like that. But yeah, these Coppolas, man, even what's his name, Nick Cage, you know. They always have like the stuff where they're almost on the brink of bankruptcy, and then they pull you back in, and they got one last good one in them.
Aren't they related?
Yeah, the cousin. Yeah,
so
that's
it's
why
a
I said
family
these
thing.
Coppolas.
It's a family
it's a
thing.
family thing. Yeah. But yeah. I'm handing you over to Ewan from the future, who's gonna tell you more about the Gun Film Festival. All right, let's have a quick look at what was announced for this year's Gun Film Festival. First up, we already knew what the opening film is going to be. Quentin Depardieu. Well, I can't say his name, is what I'm getting at. He's most known probably for Rubber the Killer Wheel, and had another film played in Venice last year. That's the only and first film I've seen of his. And his film Le Deuxième Acte will be opening the festival. It's a short film. We already also had Megalopolis announced, the latest from Francis Ford Coppola, a film 20 years in the making where all of his money went into it. We have an incredibly stacked cast. I mean, just take a snapshot of this list. Is actually crazy. So that's what's coming out. Let's just watch list that, because I definitely have to. Sorrentini has a new film, the Italian filmmaker that had a film playing, I think, at Venice, Hand of God. Again, also not too familiar with him, but he is an iconic filmmaker that has a new film. Then The Apprentice, the movie about Trump, from the Holy Spider director. This film also played in Venice, and I think won Best Lead Actress for Sayer Amer Ebrahimi, who was also in Shada, was an Australian project. Datami is another great film that played in Venice that's coming out soon. But the next film, The Apprentice, from Ali Abbasi, will be in the competition as well. And the competition is quite stacked. I'm not too familiar with Motel Destino, but Paul Schrader has O Canada with Richard Gere, Jacob Elordi, and Uma Thurman in the category. Then we also got Barry Keoghan alongside Franz Rogowski from last year's Passages, and probably other people know him from A Hidden Life, but he also has great German roles that he plays in these two. It's from Andrea Arnold, and this image has just been iconic. It isn't a bird scooter, but that would just be perfect. Really keen for this one. Then Emilia Perez, Zoe Saldana, and Selena Gomez. And this is apparently, I think, a musical from what they said. David Cronenberg has a new one called The Shrouds. Then we also have the anthology movie from Yorgos Lanthimos, Kinds of Kindness, with Emma Stone, Jesse Plemons, Willem Dafoe, Margaret Qualley, Hong Chau, Joe Owen, Mamadou Adi, and Hunter Schafer. So very excited for this film as well. The Substance is playing in competition, not too familiar with that, but also Margaret Qualley is in this one as well. Dennis Quaid. So I'll have to look up what this filmmaker has done before. Then Sean Baker has Anora playing at the festival. He's always a very interesting filmmaker. I have to really watch more of him. I've only seen Red Rocket, and I think some of his, if he did TV, I've seen some of that, but I need to watch the Florida Project ASAP. Grand Tour, Près des Yeux, Près des Cœurs. This also has a different name that's not on here, but it's something different. Beating Hearts, L'amour ouf. So there's usually like 2 to 3 French films in the competition, but a lot of it is the American productions or filmmakers who have a predominantly English or American cast, but are like Lantimos Greek. But yeah, Beating Hearts is another one that already has like an interesting poster here. Again, not familiar with the director, but I'll be doing a preparation as we get closer to the festival. I've seen some people be excited about this. I've only seen Still Life, and I kind of liked it, but Gianche, probably butchered his name here, but he has a new one called Beating Hearts, or L'amour blown by the winds, which is also blown in the tides or something like that, is what it's being called. Limonov, I assume this is going to be, no, it's not a documentary. Again, here I have to familiarize myself a bit with it, but these are the last couple of films playing in competition. This is an Indian project, and Girl with the Needle is also, I think, from a first-time director, from what they said. But that's not true. He made Sweat, which I really enjoyed, from 2020. So I guess I misunderstood that. But I'm actually really keen for The Girl and the Needle then, because Sweat was a great little film. But that's it for competition. Out of competition already announced, we got Furiosa and Mad Max Saga and Horizon American Saga Chapter 1. This one, of course, from George Miller. And this is from Kevin Costner, who had his new film here, part of 2 films, maybe 3, maybe 4, we don't know. But yes, we'll be looking forward to this as well. Then Rumors is another interesting film here, just because Cate Blanchett and Alicia Vikander are in it. More than that, I'll have to see what's up with the free director that did this one. Belle de Gaza, this was shot in Palestine before the most recent attacks. This one, I think, is another documentary. This gun premiere here, jumping ahead, is something that's interesting because Leo Cara was the director of Annette, which also played in Gun, and he's back now with It's Not Me, and starring Lea Seydoux. I'll be interested to see this. I mean, it already looks super weird. Another interesting film here in Un Certain Regard, which is usually like a first, second, third director. It's supposed to showcase new directors. That's why there's a bunch of people in here who have their first film, which includes Ariane Labed, who's a Greek-French actress who you probably have seen in like The Lobster. She was in Before Midnight, a bunch of movies, including The Souvenir and even Black Mirror, but she's directing her first feature film here with September Says. I think it's set in London, if I remember correctly, or no, one of them was, there was also a comedy set in Marseille that they spent a bunch of time on. I'm forgetting which one that is. But Un Certain Regard is something that, you know, you see these gems and you hopefully get to showcase them once you've seen them. Before then, they don't really bring in a lot of like name recognition, apart from someone who maybe is an actress doing their first feature film as a director. But I will be checking out as many of them as I can. And then finally at the bottom here, we do our La Balconette. That was the one, the raunchy comedy that's set in Marseille by Noémie Merlan, who you probably know from Portrait of a Jeune Fille en Feu, or Portrait of a Lady on Fire, or Tar, and other films. She is really active, similar to Lea Seydoux. She's been popping up in a ton of films. Emmanuelle is another one that she's quite known for, but she also directs. Yeah, this one is her latest. And then we also got a Twilight of the Warriors Walled In. I'm not familiar with this Hong Kong director at all, but it seems to be that he has a lot of experience with the action genre, and this I guess famous Chinese I think what is it called, like Saga or whatever, the Monkey King. Feels like everyone is kind of doing that at the moment, because he did I guess 3 of those films, but he'll be at the festival with Twilight of the Warriors Walled In. And then lastly, last but not least, Nick Cage will be at the festival. I don't know if he'll be attending, but with The Surfer. And yeah, this one looks interesting. I hated Vivarium. Really, really detested that film. I think it's quite bad. So we'll have to wait and see what The Surfer has to offer. I mean, yeah, that's it for now. They said there's a couple more titles that they'll announce in the coming days. I mean, so far in competition, we do have 19 films minus the one that's premiering. The opening, we don't have the closing film. It's likely that that's going to be Inside Out 2 or something else. Pixar, last year we got Elemental for that. That's kind of up in the air. But yes, a very exciting lineup. Follow to get all of the reviews once I'm attending the festival. I'm also preparing a series of kind of preparing for the fest with films from these filmmakers that is also going to kind of air as I am at the festival, so you can kind of participate and watch alongside, even if you're not able to attend the festival yourself in person. All right, welcome back. Wasn't that a great overview? I don't know what I said and what I've done because I'm back to past me. But yeah, in the meantime, you can rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcast, subscribe on YouTube, and use our Amazon links to contribute because all of that helps us going to these festivals. Because I can tell you, it's a costly endeavor. I like, for me, it's costly, and I live in Europe. Imagine how much it was for Lachlan halfway across the world to get to these festivals. So every little thing is actually like really appreciated, and yeah, it's appreciated. That's the end of the sentence there. All right, Lachlan, let's get to the stuff that we've been watching this week. Tell me about it. La Chimera, you got to revisit your old darling. Was it as good as you remembered it to be?
So, okay, this should have been the main topic of conversation because I was so fucking
to
excited.
rewatch it.
You know what? When you rewatch it, I'll rewatch it again, and we could make it a proper conversation.
Yes,
for
please.
the
We'll do
pod
that.
because there's a lot riding on La Chimera because it was funny because the two highest movies I rated last year were movies that I only saw once because I was only able to see Boy and the Heron once. I just never got around to seeing it a second time, and I would love to have seen it a second time. And then it was La Chimera. And I was really being like, if I eventually get to rewatch La Chimera and I hate it, that's going to be the worst. And I will retroactively remove it from my top 10 list and get rid of it because it could have just been a thing. And I'm very much someone who believes that movies, when you watch them in a certain time, a certain place, they can have a better effect on you than just watching it elsewhere. And I think for me, it was this really interesting movie that I had no idea what I was going into when I saw it at Cannes. And it was my first time at Cannes, and I was super excited. And I think that for me, La Chimera will be that movie that it was a movie that I saw at the first time I went to the Cannes Film Festival, and I knew nothing about it, and I went in and I adored it, which meant I had to wait almost 12 months to rewatch this movie because it didn't come out for a long time. And originally I gave La Chimera a 4.5 stars in Cannes. I wrote a full review of it. You can find that on our HQ account on Letterboxd. It's only a couple paragraphs, but it gave a general gist. I talked about how La Chimera feels like a classic movie. It's shot on film. It's shot on both 35 and 16mm film stocks. It uses different aspect ratios. It does this really cute thing where they speed up the film. So Josh O'Connor's character, as he's walking up a hill, he's not walking at a normal pace. He's kind of sped up like they would used to do with that kind of shot in film. And there was just so much to the film that made it feel special. But when I rewatched it, there was something else that I took away from it. And it was a completely different setting. I wasn't in France. I was watching it on my incredibly beautiful 65-inch TV with Dolby Atmos surround sound. So completely different setting. In the middle of the day. Completely different, right? By myself. Nothing else. No one. I wasn't in a group with cinemas. And it allowed me to do a couple of things. One is I knew where the story was going. I knew the plot points. I'd forgotten some of it, so some of it was like, oh, I forgot that happened, right? Or I forgot that particular scene happened. But it allowed me to concentrate a lot more on dialogue, and it allowed me to listen a lot more to what characters were saying. Because when you're watching it for the first time, you're watching visually what happens. So I watched the visual storytelling, and I tried reading the subtitles, but I got most of the gist. The second time I watched it, I got to get a lot more from it. And I got a lot more that these characters were, you know, some of them were quite religious in the sense that they believed that the objects they're getting from the ground is, you know, for those dead people. And it felt more of a religious experience in that sense, where it felt more, again, magical. And this is the part that made me go, La Chimera is a brilliant balance of a movie that's set in reality and then the mystical aspects. And that there is one of my favorite things in cinema, is when something is believable even though it's not set in a reality that's our own. So La Chimera is grounded, and we'll get to this later on with Love Lies Bleeding, because
grounded and underground.
it grounds itself as this, and then it doesn't. But like, you can do that in an artistic way, and I think La Chimera really balanced it in a way that I quite enjoyed. It's just, for me, it was a beautiful story. I enjoyed it. I could rant on about it for a long time, but I'll kind of summarize it in the sense that I realized that it did this balancing act so well, in the sense that here's this character, he's an archaeologist, he has this magical ability to find objects, and that there, it's not like he can just go yup, it's over there. Like, he uses like the 3 stick, like the water spouting, I can't remember what it's actually called, with the stick, and then he walks around with it. Like, it treads that fine line of magical and storytelling and the magic of filmmaking, which is what I love, is that sort of that world. So I watched La Chimera and I was like, that was incredible. I loved it. I gave it 5 stars. I bumped it up to 5 stars. I'm so close to putting it in my top 4. I'm thinking of getting rid of After Yang and putting it in my top 4 on Letterboxd, because I loved every moment of it. Yeah, it was just fantastic. And then I had to watch something else, because I was like, I want to watch something else. I have to watch a lot of stuff this week because I want to be the number one watching stuff on the podcast. Because last week it was great because I watched more than Ewan, and I was like, I got to do it for 2 weeks in a row. So I watched The Green Knight. I rewatched The Green Knight because I was talking about it in my head, being like, I want to watch a movie that balances the magical stuff a little bit more and makes it a bit more mystical. And I was like, I want to rewatch The Green Knight. I watched The Green Knight ages ago. I absolutely adored it. I rewatched it almost immediately. I think I rewatched it in like the same week, if not the week after. And same thing, I gave it like 4.5 stars, rewatched it, gave it 5. Same thing here. I gave it 5 stars. Even though on the rewatch, I was like, I don't think it's actually like a 5-star movie, but I'm going to leave it at 5 stars because I still have that incredibly impactful moment of watching it. It kind of lost the magic for me on the re-one because I've seen it like 3 times now. But I forget that like Barry Keoghan's in it. I forget that Joel Edgerton's in it. And then they pop up and I'm like, oh, it's these guys. And it was just so much fun. I love that movie. It's a great magical movie. And it's also so stylized. Like, it's got character to it. It bleeds character. So that was another 5-banger. Then I watched another movie. Now, you said rewatched in the intro. I have seen The Place Beyond the Pines before, but I actually never finished it. So, quick spoilers
Just got to the
for
Place
everybody.
Beyond. I haven't seen it myself.
Quick spoilers for everybody. I stopped watching it once Ryan Gosling leaves the movie. Because I was like, I don't want to watch this anymore. Because when I first watched it was when I was doing like... So I never logged it because I was like, that happens fairly on in the movie and the other half of the movie is set, sort of in the future.
You're really pushing the Ryan Gosling bracket on me, aren't you?
So and the reason I did it was like, I really want to sit down and watch like Ryan Gosling movies because I want to talk about that magical aspect of cinema, and Ryan Gosling has that magical aspect in cinema. So
He does.
I kind of watched for the first time in one sitting / rewatch because I had seen most of it, and I have read the screenplay. Like, I haven't read it, but I flicked through it to like read it because I thought it was like fairly well written. So Place Beyond the Pines, gave it 3.5 stars because I feel like as a whole, Ryan Gosling's incredible in it. I think all the performances are incredible, but I think the story itself, where it goes afterwards from the first act, is kind of like, so I didn't really love that. But what I will say is Gosling's great, Eva Mendes is great, Bradley Cooper's in it. He's fine, but the two that I kind of forgot that are in the film is Mahershala Ali, who I'm like, oh my god, it's Mahershala Ali. I didn't realize he was in this movie. And I always forget that Ben Mendelsohn is also in it, and he's great. He's fantastic in this movie because like he literally like Ryan Gosling rocks up to him in the forest, and Ben Mendelsohn's just like, "Do you want a job?" Just randomly ran. Do you want a job? And I'm like, that guy is so honest. Like he's such a nice guy. And other than that, those are the movies that I watched. Other than I did start Nightcrawler the other night. I was really tired and it was getting good, and I was like, I need to pause it to get ready and watch this. But
that late at night, Ryan Gosling, Jake Gyllenhaal, can't tell them apart.
Literally, no, I'm not even. Okay, so here's my mentality for all my movies this week. I went Lucky Mirror, magical stuff. Green Knight, magical stuff. I want the magic of Ryan Gosling, and I was like, I want the magic of Jake Gyllenhaal because I saw Roadhouse. People were logging Roadhouse still on Letterboxd, and I was like, I want to watch a Gyllenhaal movie. I finished Carol at the End of the World. It ended really shit, which is disappointing because I kind of enjoyed like that complex. Did I ever tell you about that Netflix midnight there was an animated TV show on Netflix that came out.
We talked about it, I think, a year or so ago, and I ended up going on a binge of watching it myself. The one that's essays and podcast.
Yeah. So I was really hoping
Midnight
it was
Gospel
going to be
is it
something.
called, right?
Midnight Gospel, that's it. I was really hoping it was going to be something similar to that. No, it's not. Everyone, forget about Carol at the End of the World. If you want something that's really inside, like Carol at the End of the World does try to go in those places, but I never think it reaches the full capacity of what Midnight Gospel did.
Yeah.
So Midnight Gospel really nailed it. Did you enjoy Midnight Gospel? Did you enjoy it at all?
I did. I think it was an interesting like blend of media that is like super unique, and I love the animation. Storytelling.
Yeah, it was like fantastic.
It's a fun one to check out. Yeah.
I would never want it to do I would love for them to do a second season,
live action,
for more of it. But I fuck live action adaptation. But I just don't think it would make sense. Carol in the World had a really interesting really interesting narrative to it. It's obviously going to do a second season because it is about the end of the world, and the world didn't end. So I was really hoping that it would, and it would just be like a one season thing. But obviously it's Netflix, so it won't be successful. They'll cancel it, and I'll never get a conclusion. So whatever. But all of this is for me to finally come to me bringing up the fact that I watched Devs.
Did you finish it?
I finished Devs.
Man, you were really sick.
So
oh god.
Get this right. I watched Devs.
Yeah.
And all of these other movies, I've basically I finished them. Like all of the stuff I've watched after I kind of recovered, but I was still watching Devs while I was sick, and I watched it in one sitting. So I stopped it when I literally stopped at 20 minutes in on the first episode and was like, fuck it, I'm not watching this. They talked about quantum physics and it really not broke my brain, but I hate it when people use writing. Like Alex Garland's a good writer, right? Director, we can argue, but writer, I think he's quite good. But when you write a piece of dialogue that tries to explain something and you overcomplicate it, or you open up your TV show with two characters who are talking about nerdy stuff, and I get it, right? Nerdy stuff can be cool. I watched Mr. Robot and I fucking love Mr. Robot, and that talks about nerdy stuff, but it does it in a way that's really fucking cool. This didn't. It took so fucking long for Devs to get decent. So watch the first 2 to 3 episodes. It's only about 8 episodes long, and then you finally get into good stuff because it really gets into some really cool ideas and themes, and I loved it for that. And I love sci-fi. Like if I had to either decide, right? So if someone put a gun to my head and was like, decide, you can either never have a steak ever again in your life, but sci-fi exists, or you have to give up, give up sci-fi or give up steaks. I would give up steaks. I would fucking give up steaks. I would go sci-fi, right? Come on. So Devs took a long time to get good. So Ewan, you need to watch Devs because we are going to do a mini Garland bracket.
We are next week, actually. Yes.
I'm sorry, but you have to get past a few shit episodes for it to kind of get good. And then the ending is not fantastic, but it's okay. But it closes it, but it doesn't, it closes it in a way that's closed, so they probably won't do a second season. I don't think they're going to do a second season. It sucks to see something with really interesting ideas and themes just not fully come together, and I don't know where it went wrong. I'm not sure if Garland didn't have the energy to do, because I'm pretty sure all the episodes are written and directed by him. The other thing is that I'm not sure if it's a story that should have been a TV show or if it's a story that should have been a movie, because there are elements that make sense to build it up over time, like certain character developments building up over time. There are other character developments that happen and go really quickly, but for me, this TV show has a really good core. It's just everything else around it is a bit...
Do you reckon this is what burned him out? That like he had 2 more in him and then he's like, okay, I'm done with directing for a bit? Because
no,
it's right. He directed all of 8 he directed all 8 episodes.
I don't actually have any issue. So devs, first of all, the CGI is... Ex Machina had fantastic, like we're talking fantastic CGI, right? The CGI in devs is not horseshit, but it's the first word that came to my head in comparison to what we have seen that guy do with sci-fi. We had Annihilation, which, to be fair, I think that it's a lot more sci-fi, like visual effects heavy, but he has some of the most visually pleasing sci-fi films of recent memory, and then the CGI in this show, which, to be fair, isn't that complex, right? We're talking about basic buildings and poles, which we're talking non-moving characters, right? In those movies, we had characters that moved, that had CGI involved with them, and like digital creatures. Why does it look so terrible? Like, why couldn't he bring a team that was good at, like, maybe it was a faster turnaround time? So maybe the crunch culture was just a little bit different that he wasn't used to for TV shows versus movies. But at its core, this TV show does go into some really cool themes of like free will and destiny and all of that. And I loved it. Once they told me what was happening, I was like, oh, that's so cool. But it took so long for it to kind of get into it and where it eventually went to. So yeah, look, like, have you started watching it? Have you started watching it?
No, I haven't yet. But it's on a streaming service for me, so I will watch it this week.
2 times speed the first 2 episodes, and then 1 time speed episode 3 to 7, and then 7 to 8. You can maybe like 1.5 times speed it. So there you go. That's your seating of devs.
Good to know. No, I think I'll watch it on my TV, so actually like proper experience.
Got it.
Yeah, I did the same with to close, I guess, what you watched with the stuff I watched. Got a couple of screeners from Apple, and I finally made my way through the first series that I got. Next week I can talk about the Sympathizer. Got the whole series there as well. I just didn't have time this week. It was a really busy week to watch more than you, so it pains me to say that, Lachlan, no, you beat me, you bested me, brother. Since you are on roids, you're on.
The doctor gave me steroids for medication. It's not actual steroids, but like they gave me like a steroid medication.
So I watched Sugar with Colin Farrell. The first 2 episodes, or by now maybe 3, are out. It's gonna come out weekly until like the middle or end of May. 8-episode series that has like a ton of visual style. It's about a PI who is looking for a girl from a rich family, or girl, I say. She's a woman. She's like 23 or 24, and she's gone missing. She had drug issues, and the family is like these prolific 2 generations of directors, the grandpa and the dad, and then the younger is like a child star that has its own demons, and he comes in as this really empathetic person towards all of them and all of the people he touches, way more than he needs to be. So there seems to be like something off maybe about this guy that he portrays, and it's then match cut a lot of times because it takes place in LA with a lot of other noir films that were filmed there. So like he's rolling down the street in a car, and then it match cuts to like a 50s film, and it goes back seamlessly, and it does that throughout the whole entire show. And it is a bit, you need to be adjusted to it because there's so much, because like in the context of the show, Sugar is a cinema nerd, So he talks about it constantly, and he kind of sees the world through cinema a bit as well. The reviews, I think, were kind of bad on this one, and I think the first thing I wrote down when I was watching was first of all, the opening looks a bit AI, and it doesn't look AI in like a good artistic way of using it, but actually it just looks AI. But then I was like, okay, it sets up a lot of stylistic choices that are fun to watch, but does it hold up like beyond having all of that style with the substance it wants to tackle, with like these themes of I don't know, like abuse and fame and murder, but it gets a bit deeper later on, which I can't talk about because all of the episodes are an embargo and I don't want to spoil, but it goes into like a pretty surprising direction at one point, and I can't say I love it all. It actually ties into like Love Lies Bleeding kind of well, like that type of weird stuff that they get into towards the end of that film as well. But I can recommend it just for the style alone, and because Apple TV Plus is by far the best streaming service for quality. This show looks stunning, and for cinema nerds, it's a fun thing to see, like all the scenes and the match cutting. There's also a lot of cross cutting in between scenes. It reminded me a bit of After Yang as well, where they had like the doubles of scenes, you know, when something was kind of back and showed again. Here it feels like they're like I'm using so many terms: cross cutting, match cutting. They're also jump cutting in between the scenes, not like switching cameras, but staying on the same and then jumping in it. So it has its own visual style that is unique. I don't know if it works like throughout the whole film. I think like 5 episodes of the 8 are directed by the City of God director. I'm personally not a fan of that film, but it's for a lot of people one of their favorite films of all time. I didn't really connect with that, but there's a vision to Sugar, and for that I can definitely recommend it. And yeah, Lachlan, I don't know. You're a Colin Farrell fan as well, right? You're not going Farrell for Farrell, and you're not like on the Jake Gyllenhaal or Ryan Gosling type of train, but you're a fan of Colin Farrell, right? That's safe to say.
I would say it's pretty fucking close. Like, I would say, like, if it was in what order, I would probably say Gosling, Gyllenhaal, and probably Colin Farrell would be my third, like, actor that I will watch anything that he's in. Like, I fucking love Colin Farrell. He's great.
Well, then you should definitely download these 2 episodes. Can you download stuff on Apple TV Plus? You can, right? You must.
I have no idea. Let me see if I can access it.
And then check those out. I think it's worth checking out for that. I'll move on in the meantime.
Flight coming up.
Yeah, it's only 3 hours. That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes me 4 to get to a different state. So.
That's Australia. I watched Back to Black. I hosted a little press screening for myself just like earlier today because we got the movie early, and it's coming out here I think this week, but we're not showing it at our theater if you were interested this week, but next week or the week after, I don't know actually. But yeah, I got to see it, and it like I don't like these music biopics at all, and unless they're like a tar where they can play with how they want to portray the lead character, and they don't have to I don't know, in some sort of way still consider the estate of a person even if they passed away, like Amy Winehouse. Like there's always something that is missing from these films, and maybe they are more interesting by the time we are like 100 years removed and we can make films about these people where it isn't about like not to come defend like Napoleon, the movie from Ridley Scott, that takes a lot of liberties in what it focuses on, and it feels like it's just like him fucking Josephine, and that's the whole film to a lot of people, and not like him on the battlefield or stuff like that. But you can take these artistic choices once you are more removed from the people, and to me that makes a more interesting character study. Here you essentially have a movie about a person who is so codependent on people that whenever she doesn't get the love, she completely gets self-destructive and slowly learns that she is just self-destructive and she has an addiction that she can't deal with. But it doesn't really go into more of her personality. It's so tied to all of these external factors that contribute to her addiction. For example, like her grandma getting sick is one of her catalysts, and then she just goes out drinking. And it's like, that can maybe be true in real life, but the way you juxtapose it in like an editing sense of this scene follows this scene where she's like has a big moment of, oh, I'm going drinking, and they can't take me to rehab. It feels like really reductive for just capturing someone's whole life, and they try to be like tasteful about her passing as well, and it just like, to me, rings hollow in a lot of ways. So I thought, from the casting choice alone, not that she does a bad job, it's just it isn't right. Marisa Abela is just not right for this role. I never believed her to be Winehouse, not for 1 second. She seems just like too clean, not rough around the edges. And if you look at photos of Amy Winehouse, it's just not, they didn't get it. They didn't get it at all. Not that I'm like an expert on her life or anything. I actually just know the songs and not much more than that, but it feels like it's kind of missing it. In I couldn't say I'd recommend it, but for those who like these biopics, I think you'll get a pretty serviceable one. I think this does the job just fine, but to me it lacks a lot of like actually hot. And yeah, Lachlan, I finished Seinfeld. I watched 9 seasons of Seinfeld. Yeah, are you proud of me? Thank you so much. I do.
Wow, man.
Can you?
It's good to see you.
I'm kind of disappointed
you started
that you
that
didn't
all the way
stand
back
up
when
and
we started the
clap.
podcast.
I did not. I started it 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Show off.
Yeah. No, it's not a show off. It's actually like pretty sad how quickly I binged that all. But Curb Your Enthusiasm, by the time we record this, ended yesterday, and I essentially went on the Seinfeld bench because Larry David's role as a writer in Seinfeld was name dropped in like the 2nd episode, and I've started watching Curb Your Enthusiasm now. That one's a bit of a harder show to get into, to be honest. I hope it gets a bit better. I didn't really love the first couple of episodes, maybe because it's not as lighthearted and it gets a bit more into the like really cringe humor, and then it stays on that a lot. And that's just like, it's not as easy to consume as a sitcom, although it's arguably probably funnier and better written and stuff like that. But it's just like, yeah, I'm not gonna binge this one really quickly, but it's got like 30-minute episodes, and every season has like 10 of them. So it's also like a couple. It comes out probably around the same runtime that Seinfeld has, but probably taking this one slow, but slowly making my way through Curb Your Enthusiasm now that one has ended. And then lastly, YouTubers going into the movie business is nothing new. I mean, homegrown Aussies, Talk to Me had a great film last year. Markiplier is working on one called The Iron Lung, I believe. And here, I don't know if you are familiar with Rudy Mancuso, who does like these puppet things where there's he's a puppeteer essentially. And this movie, I thought, was his take on Musica, just like something about music and something about, like, I don't know, just being a musical, I guess. But it ends up being this thing that is essentially, I don't know anything about his life, but like some take on an autobiography in a way, but heightened, of course, with a lot of like style and ideas that are really fly and cool on YouTube. And they also like are professionally done in this film. It's just like a bit all over the place. All of the bits where he kind of ties in the same characters that he used on YouTube really fall short, even knowing the context, because I remember watching his stuff, I think like, I don't know, like 7 years ago. I think I binged through his stuff once, because like he has essentially that thing of setting up. It's like a Bo Burnham joke essentially. Like you're setting something big up, and I don't know if it's Bo Burnham, but he just did it the best in my opinion. Setting up something big with like a musical thing of pairing comedy with music, and then the punchline being it's just like one word answer or something like that from I forget what the puppet's name is. Yeah, I don't know. This didn't really work for me. I think it had a lot of ideas, but it also is like going in the route of like he's there, but he hears all the music around him. So it's also like a bit of an autistic movie. That's fine. It's not in a derogatory sense, but it definitely is like that, the way that he goes about it. And it's I don't know, it's an interesting thing to explore, but I don't feel the same way about it like last week when we talked about Monkey Man, when you have a first time director and he's just like, he's just getting his vision done. I don't know if this vision really works well here for cinema, but it, I think, got a straight to Prime Video release, and it's got Camila Mendes in it. So yeah, a lot of people who love her will probably go check this out. I can only give it a really mild recommendation, though. That's all the stuff that I watched this week. So yeah, Lachlan, there's actually, we need no filler time. We are already overtime, actually. So bye-bye. Holiday time. Lachlan's clocking out. But no. We are getting to the film we're going to talk about this week in full-on spoiler fashion. Last week, we talked about it, our short thoughts on it. But Rose Glass's Love Lies Bleeding is our main topic for today.
Gym manager Lou falls for Jackie, a bodybuilder who is passing through town en route to a competition in Las Vegas.
Ayo, viva Las Vegas.
Ayo.
Yeah, it comes in at a runtime of 104 minutes, has been received pretty warmly, bloodworm, actually that doesn't make any sense. On Letterboxd it's a 3.8, on IMDb a 7.3, on Metacritic a 76, and yeah, it's distributed by A24, had a Sundance premiere, and stars Kristen Stewart, who has always been a Sundance darling. We also got Katy O'Brien, Dave Franco, and Ed Harris in the cast. So, yeah, a pretty fun one. Lachlan, you liked this one more than I did. I think last week we even said our ratings for the film already, so that's no secret. Or at least you said, we talked about you liking it a bit more than I did. So maybe we can get into that straight away. What was the stuff that you liked about Love Lies Bleeding?
I think the first thing that I enjoyed about Love Lies Bleeding was narrative. I haven't strayed away from me saying that I really like small town Australian movies because it's like a whole little culture, and it's the same with this. It's a small town and it's got its own culture, It's got its own world. So to see the intertwining web of who Lou's father is and how Jackie starts working for Lou's father and how that can go, like, I really enjoyed seeing that circle of, cool, Lou, like, her father is a bad guy, he pays off the cops, but these, like I love seeing the narrative unfold, and for me, I feel like Kristen Stewart, Katy O'Brien did a fantastic job playing these two protagonists, and I fell for them immediately. I loved that, like, they were opposites physically, opposites emotionally, but they built a relationship that I found quite believable, and I just really fell for them, and I have seen the comparisons to like the like modern day Thelma and Louise, and I get that. I do think that it's different in a way, at least very different, but without a doubt it took me like 20 minutes to figure out who Dave Franco is playing in this movie. I
hear that from a lot of people. I saw him immediately.
Was staring at this character.
Not his first appearance.
Oh, yeah. So I was staring at this character being like, because I saw his name in the title cards at the start, and I was like, oh, Dave Franco's in it. I didn't realize that. I'm looking for it, and I'm like, the fuck's Dave? Like, I literally like lean forward in my seat and go, is that Dave Franco with the mullet mustache playing like the 30-year-old, almost, 35 plus year old, 40-year-old dad? And I was like, oh shit, he's getting these mature roles now. Here we go. So overall, narratively, it's what kept me engaged. The film is also stunning. It's got this noir style to it, is the easiest way I could explain it, with quite dark scenes, quite bright environments, and it does play its artistic card quite a bit. The director, Rose Glass, they really do a great job bringing some interesting artistic creative ways to present certain ideas. However, for me, I do feel like it does blow it out of proportion a little bit at the end, and to me, that ruined it a little bit for me. In fact, I think it ruined it quite a bit for me of where they went. I feel like some people are going to love it a lot more, but Ewan, go. Your thoughts. Tell me, brother.
Yeah, you didn't end up watching Saint Maud, if I remember correctly, her debut feature, right?
No.
Yeah. This is the second one, and early, I think early responses for this one was that it's basically an improvement on the last one, and I didn't really feel that. I think I feel about the same way about Saint Maud as I feel about this one. I wasn't expecting it to be as much of an uncomfortable watch as well on like an auditory sense. It was like crazy the amount of like bone crushing noises, like every death or even violence that you experience, and not even violence, just training your body, essentially is what I'd describe it, is such a like it actually shows you and makes it for you an auditory experience of how muscles are built with you breaking them, and they built themselves up stronger. And it feels like Kristen Stewart is kind of the accumulation of that, where she's gone through all of this traumatic stuff in her past as this character who's really closed off. And then you come in with Katy O'Brien, someone who really shows on the outside what they've grown into, but maybe on the inside they are pretty insecure and not really built out as a whole person yet. They're also pretty naive. Then it essentially is like aspires to be a road movie that never actually gets to hit the road. You know, they're always kind of stuck. And I like that approach, that you're really stuck in the small town and like the setting in the desert, where essentially you got your own rules. It's got like maybe not like any sort of other Western genre tags, but essentially just because it's remote, it's more of a small town trope, like you said at the start, where everyone knows each other, and the rules apply for they have a clear hierarchy for the small town, and everyone's kind of under the thumb of Lou Senior, who essentially has a say about everything that's going on in the city. And I think that side of the plot is like fairly familiar when it comes to these movies where two people fall in love, someone's like thrown into all of the criminal underground stuff, and someone's already in it, and they try to grab them out of it, and they struggle to do so, but then it turns out they're actually closer connected than they would have thought, or like there's some kind of reveal. So all of that like isn't something super new, and it doesn't do something interesting in my opinion with that part of the story. It actually felt a bit underwhelming, the stuff that they did with JJ, how simple he was, just basically played as a really easy antagonist, as just an abuser. And I guess they wanted to say more about like letting that fly by, because you're just kind of accepting it, and there's no power that we can go about this differently. That's just kind of how they go about it. And I wanted to more of that side of the plot, because to me that was a bit the more interesting side, and they kind of cut that a bit short. Then it just has explosive moments of surprising takes where the plot goes. You know, when they do something more abruptly than you think it was supposed to happen. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it's really out of left field. And I do agree, the ending doesn't really close it in a way that makes sense to me, even if you want to sweet talk it and maybe change it that it's like not as it was presented, or maybe it's heightened in the minds of the characters. It doesn't really matter. It's just like a weird approach to go about it. To me, it didn't ruin the film, because I was pretty mellow in it the whole time through, and I was a bit underwhelmed. But stylistically, I think it has still a lot to offer, you know, cinematography. Yeah. Audio-wise, I didn't like it, but it was certainly a choice that it worked. It made me recoil with like the muscle flexing. It was, that was super uncomfortable.
I want to tap on there with your ending. What did you say? Was it a what kind of ending did you say? The word escapes me now. Visceral ending?
Heightened?
No. Heightened? I think so. The way that you explained it just then is perfect, because visually this film has a lot to offer. I think that how it presents again, we've told our numbers score in previous episodes, but
yeah.
And we're gonna spoiler.
Yeah, spoilers. Full on ending
spoilers.
spoiler now. Yeah.
But before I get to the ending, they show like some really cool imagery of, you know, dropping bodies into that pit, and I was like, this is so like, a lot of this film is really well thought out, and I enjoy this visual. Like, you can feel Jackie getting bigger as she jacks up with roids, right? And for me, it kept balancing this line of, she looks really uncomfortably big now. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, no, in that time frame, I guess she could have built up that muscle. Like, it feels like it was like days as she was building up this muscle, and she was pretty bulky to this massive machine. And this is where the movie, throughout the entirety of its run through, tiptoes this magical line that I have created in my head that I find believable and unbelievable, right? So I talk about this in La Chimera, I talk about this in The Green Knight earlier. This is this magical balancing act that movies should do, where if you're going to present ideas that are artistic and they aren't really, you know, set in a reality, then they should kind of reach a fine line. And if you're going to stretch outside of that, you should probably build to get to it. And the film does try to do that, but it does prop up really in your face right at the end there with Jackie being physically huge, like almost gigantic, Gulliver's Travel huge, and pins down Lou Sr., Ed Harris's character, and that's how they kind of take him out, right? And for me, it felt like a cop-out because they were showing how strong she was. Why not just take him on at her size? Like, make that the impactful thing. Like, Ed Harris, he's a menacing looking guy, but he's not big. He's not bulky. It still would have been impactful to see her Hulk out just before that scene happens, become this, you know, bigger character. Like, get her looking huge and take him on, but still have it be in that reality where it's not a giant CGI, not CGI, but just blown up like video of Katy O'Brien pinning down Ed Harris, because it's just completely bonkers. And it's gone outside of the reality this world has set. I don't mind that shot. After I've thought about it, I don't mind the shot of them running through the clouds. I think that that's fine from an artistic level. Like, Katy's pretty fucking high at that point from the drugs, but like, I'm happy to believe that running through the clouds, because it has a purpose, like narratively, of visually showing that they're escaping, they're running, they're on cloud 9, they're getting away from that life, and then they go on their little car and they drive off, and the film obviously ends, and it has that little end part, which I actually found quite amusing. But that moment ruined a lot of the film for me, because I was just like, why did you have to blow it out of proportion? And it kind of brought it from a 4-star down to a 3.5. And at a point, I was at 4.5 stars with this movie. I was at 4.5 stars. Damn. And then it brought it down a whole star for me. I feel like on a rewatch, I could bump it back up to a 4, knowing that's where the movie goes, and I could kind of expect it, and maybe they set it up better than, because at one point I did get distracted because I wanted to see how many people were going to leave the cinema, because I didn't think this movie was going to be that popular. And if I'm honest, there wasn't a lot of people in the cinema, but there was definitely less people by the end of the film who straight up left the cinema.
Surprising.
Which is kind of
it's not
funny.
really a walkout film, to me, but I guess maybe just like the noises are too much for people.
It could have been anything. I didn't really see when people walked out, unfortunately. But I feel some people weren't vibing with it narratively. Some people might have just been homophobic. Some people just might not like seeing women being bigger and bulkier than them. No idea. I had a great time with the film as a whole. Like, I'm fucking pretty positive on this film as like a whole, right? 3.5 stars is not me saying yes, this is a piece of shit. But if they didn't have that giant scene, I feel like this is a solid 4 for me. 4, because artistically, I think the film's great. Narratively, I think it's great. Sounds design is fantastic. Watching Dave Franco, just his character
lose his jaw.
Lose his jaw was wild.
Oh my god!
And to cut to it, I was just like, "Ha!" So I am very positive on this movie. Don't get me wrong. It fucked it so hard in that one moment that I literally was like sitting there. I was like, I was like, what?
Yeah, I was also a bit surprised. Well, to me, it kind of goes onto like the wrong path earlier on when Jackie shoots. Is it Daisy or Beth? It's Daisy.
Oh, the back of the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to me, like they cut away from Senior making her do that. There's no explanation of him, and to me, jumping from her being in his car getting picked up to her killing someone in Lou's apartment
is a pretty
just doesn't make
big
sense.
jump. Yeah,
it doesn't make sense to me at all. Even though like she's a potential leaker, you know, that sort of thing has to be taken care of. But the way that she does it is so stupid to me that like ultimately he wants to pin it onto her. Like that makes sense.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Ed Harris is such a capable actor, and from what I've seen, the limited stuff from Katy O'Brien, she'd be able to do this. Why not show us that sort of manipulation in a scene that's actually like super compelling? That could be one of the best scenes of the movie. Instead, she seems to be more focused on shocking us than actually like an intriguing through line for the last third of the film. That solidified it to me. I ended up on a 3 out of 5. I never really went up that much higher. Yeah, I went lower at one point. It had me like in and around like 2.5, 3.5. And yeah, I didn't really vibe with it. Just to clarify, I'm not homophobic, but hey, if I need to add another half star for you to believe me, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to stick with my 3 out of 5 rating for this one. But yeah, like you were about to say something in there. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Maybe. I'm not sure. But I'm just giving it a 3. Like I'm giving it a very positive 3.5. Maybe there'll be a director's cut and they go and Rose goes, oh, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't put that in there. Maybe I'll make a director's cut without it, and then I'll watch it and I'm like, 5 stars. It's a 5-star movie, the director's cut. So yeah,
did you see that when Gulliver's Travels or another film, Jack and the Giants, or I don't know what it's called, but like one scene where there is a big character eating another one was on screen. And I was like, oh, that's a particular thing to show right now. And I was making note of it. And then I was like, okay.
Really?
There was an old-time movie that was playing on the TV at one point. I was like, it stood out to me. And then
so it was thought about.
When this comes out on streaming, it's going to be everywhere. It's like, look, this is foreshadowing. And I was like, that's not foreshadowing. That's just like a reference. That's not foreshadowing. Yeah. But
look, I could rewatch it and maybe I feel different, but the initial reaction was just, why? I don't understand why that's there. It had this really good world to it that had a reality. Like it was willing to stretch, and watching someone roid out and just get huge and stretch the, like, when that scene happens and all those bones are cracking as she physically gets larger, right? I was like, oh man, I would love to see this, like, She-Hulk, fucking Katy O'Brien just pummel. Like, I was really expecting Ed Harris's character just to be thrown to the ground and just pummel, just bashing his head in, right? Because we've seen some pretty gory stuff, but it wasn't, and it wasn't the death, the ending. It wasn't the death for him I was expecting, because I was expecting it to be this massive crescendo, like, you know, this Tarantino-esque build up of violence, you know, right at the end of a Tarantino movie, like the main villain has to just die in the most violent way possible. I was waiting for that to happen. We didn't get it. I was a little disappointed, but hey, maybe when this comes out, I'll rewatch it, and because it's not a long movie as well. It's 104 minutes. It's in and out, and you're done. It's not like I was stuck in there for close to 2 hours and had to be like, oh, here we go.
I'm giving it a 3, but I'm still gonna recommend it. I think it's worth checking out. I feel like even with the stuff that I don't love from A24, there's still enough like style in there to make something worth seeing. Again, even if it's not ends up being one of your like favorite films of the year. I think that wraps it up for our thoughts on Love Lies Bleeding. We could talk more about it, but we're gonna end it here, and we're gonna pair it up with another film. So Lachlan, what are you choosing?
This wasn't super difficult to pick, which is why I actually have a double feature prepared today. So I wanted to pick a movie that involved love, lies, and bleeding. This movie has love. I mean, after all, it is a romance movie. It's also like a driving movie where they drive around the country.
Road trip.
Yes. Hey, road trip movie. There we are. There is lying involved. Quite a bit of lying, like a lot of lying.
Lots of lying.
distrust.
Yeah.
So there's love, there's lying, then there's bleeding. This movie has a decent amount of bleeding in it. So it kind of hits all the check boxes that I'm looking for. It's also a recent film, Luca Guadagnino film, Bones and All. Ooh.
Bones and all.
You want to hear about bones cracking? Ooh, bones and
slapping
all.
up. Yes.
Slap it up.
That is what it's called when you eat them bones and all, you know. Name dropping. I still haven't finished that novel. I'm so bad at actually like reading the stuff that I want to read for this, but it's just too many words, and movies have moving pictures.
A lot of
bit
words.
Easier. A lot of words. Well, keeping my double feature short, you dropped it before that it's maybe not as close to this film. Like Love Lies Bleeding has parallels that other people have been making. I feel like it still is a great pairing to watch it together with Thelma and Louise. Maybe, you know, the ending for Thelma and Louise isn't as happy as happy in quotations as it is for these two by the end of it. So it feels like an alternative ending that they maybe could have had, where they get to bury the trail of bodies that they leave behind. But I adore Thelma and Louise. I think it's just a great film all around, and it's also got Love Lies Bleeding. I think maybe not as much as Bones and All has, but similar to Lachlan winning the contest of what we've been watching in the amount of stuff that he's watched, he's also winning the more accurate pairing for Love, Lies, and Bleeding for the double feature. But yeah, that's what I'm picking. Then we got a couple new releases out this week. First up, Abigail is coming out worldwide. Another horror flick hitting because I think January is a horror month, April is as well, and then we get most of it in September and October. But this year, it feels like we might even get some really good summer flicks that are horror filled. And Abigail is what we'll be I guess reporting, well, I'll be reporting back from it next week. You should probably sneak that in before our next recording. Then the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare is coming out in the States. I don't see it coming out in Australia, and especially not for me. Guy Ritchie has had a bit of a weird release dates when it comes to international stuff. I remember one of his older films, or one of his more recent films, Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre, just kind of came out here and wasn't out anywhere else. And yeah, bizarre. But he's got another one out, and Gentleman is a pretty good series that dropped on Netflix from him. I can recommend that as much as, I guess, the film that came out in 2020. And then Sasquatch Sunset is... Yes, and then Sasquatch Sunset, for Australia, it's, what did you say? Also April 19th? So you're getting it as well. It's just, I guess you'll have to report back for us on this one. You're the bigger Guy Ritchie fan. Between the two of us, that's more your thing. So
yes,
let us know about that.
I am the... Yeah, I don't have anything. Sorry. Continue.
Sasquatch Sunset, can you have a look at that? Is that out in Australia? Because it's hitting wide release in the States.
Probably not. Is it an A24?
I think it is, yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
We won't get A24 stuff for at least another 6 months. Studio Square Peg Felix. No, that's not A24.
No, it's Bleecker Street. Yeah, it's Bleecker Street.
Don't have a theatrical run in Australia yet.
Yeah, that's what I expected. Such a weird film, but yeah, it's hitting wide release. So that's over like a couple thousand or like 1,000 theaters in the States. So maybe you'll be able to catch that one if you reside there. And then out on digital, right on the day that this episode comes out, Hundreds of Beavers. I already shouted this out last week because I wanted to make sure that a lot of people actually have this on their radar. Lachlan, I will be sending you a link to it as well as soon as it's out, because I do have screeners for it. I can actually give it to you already. This one would be a fun one to talk about as well. I think it's so fun and so interesting, so unique. So Hundreds of Beavers, go give that a try. After the King, it might sound like a Guy Ritchie film, but it's not. It's about a dog and Mark Wahlberg going on a run, essentially. Then Dune 2 is out. I guess it's maybe still in theaters, but you can now watch it on digital. but I did see that a couple of people were already dropping the whole film on X, so that's you can watch it on Twitter if you want to, I guess. Then Late Night with the Devil is out on VOD. I will be checking that one out before next week's episode as well. And then Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scaregiver, will be hitting Netflix. Yeah, and we are Scargiver, yes. I wasn't sure if it's Scaregiver or Scargiver, and I honestly don't give a shit. But I'll watch it. It's not 4 hours long. But yeah, maybe if I play it in real time, it will be, because a lot of it is in slow motion, right? It's Zack Snyder. Then a limited release in the States is We Grown Now. I haven't seen this one, but I've heard great things about it. And then in Swiss theaters, we are getting Civil War. That's already out in Australia and in the States, and we'll be covering that one alongside maybe a bit of Rebel Moon and Late Night with the Devil, all of that stuff. So by the time Lachlan's back from holiday, it's going to be a jam-packed episode. And then Lachlan, you guys are actually getting challenges, Luca Guadagnino's new film, a week early from the rest of the world. So good on you. You won't be around to watch it, but hey, it's out earlier, and yeah, for those who, I mean, makes your double feature pick even better with Bones and all.
Exactly.
But yeah, that's it for this week. Again, leave us a rating, subscribe, let us know what you've been watching in the comments, all of that good stuff. But yeah, Lachlan, you are about to head out on holiday. Do you have any wisdom to give as you hang up your suit and put on your bathings? I don't know if you're going that sort of holiday.
I don't think I have any wisdom. I just want to let everybody know to stay safe out there. It's not like I'm not recording next week, because we'll still be having an episode next week. We're still recording. I'm just on holiday for the next week, so yeah.
Well, we're not recording while you're on holiday, but you come back right as we, like, on the verge of it. We just have enough time to record another episode.
So the plan is I hopefully see Civil War tomorrow, so that when I come back, I can see challenges. But knowing me, like, yeah, it's going to be a nightmare trying to get everything squeezed in.
Yeah. Well, you got to prioritize watching Rebel Moon on holiday, you know, as you're like, hanging out.
That's going to be my plane movie.
Is it out already by then? Oh yeah, I guess no. Is it out this Friday?
I also want to see Late Night with the Devil. I think the
Friday after. Yeah, so maybe on your flight back.
So when I get back, Late Night with the Devil, Robot Dreams, Civil War, Back to Black, challenges will pretty much all be out. So there's a lot of shit I have to catch up on when I get back. Yeah. And then the week after is April the Fall Guys, so I don't have much time.
Yeah. We got a busy schedule ahead of us, and we're not skipping a beat or a week. So yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.